using the 9/16 circle in this scale to do the wheel, and I even use the next size down, the 1/2, to put the bevel inside the rail wheel. You can kind of see that the rail wheel has a bevel to it. But especially, I mean, there's several places where it's really important to use circles, curves. I mean, like once again here, I'll use it like right here. This is the roller bearing. And I mean, people will always say to you like, well, you use a circle, and it's like, well, of course you do. I mean, everybody. If you have a tool, you might as well use it. But, I mean, I don't recommend that you just freehand draw that circle right there. I mean, but the real bulk of what you're doing is that you're measuring. And believe me, if you can measure where a circle goes and put the circle in the right place, that's 90% of the battle. And again, when it gets to the paint scheme, there will be places where, like especially the Florida East Coast paint scheme is a great example of this. The Florida East Coast paint scheme has curves going on the front and the back, and you certainly can try to do those curves freehand. But as I keep saying, the truth of the matter is that you need to measure where they start, where they stop, and you can even take your hand and do the curve between point A and point B. The more you practice, you get really good at doing it because your hand gets steady. But there are templates that you can get that have a circle that's that big where you connect it between point A and point B. And that just tightens up your drawing quite a bit because, as I said, the biggest part of it all is measuring everything. So, trust me, if you need to use a circle in the right place, there's nothing wrong with that. Here we're measuring the second truck, and the second truck basically, as you can see, is just a mirror image of the first truck. And I've been doing a lot of narrating as I go, and perhaps if you notice that sometimes when I do the truck, as I was emphasizing to you, trucks have taken years and years of practicing. As you notice, I myself wasn't even doing quite as much narrating as I was working on the truck. And part of why is because I'll be the first to admit, trucks actually, of all the engine, take the most concentration for me. Even after years of practicing and drawing this type of truck, trucks take a lot of concentration. They have a lot of curves, they have a lot of different start and stop points. So if trucks take a long time, I'm just going to connect these 2 points of the underframe. But if trucks take a long time for you to master, I don't even think I've mastered them at all in any way. So don't feel any one way or the other about it, because trucks, it's why I have not been talking as heavily, because they just take a lot of thought, a lot of patience. And here I'm going to hook the sand line up on this, and it even makes me realize I didn't hook the sand line up on this one. See, you actually kind of, that's a big part of drawing too, is that you realize you didn't do certain things. And I'll put the horn up here. And a big part, a huge part, considering details as small as horns, you end up, especially on older engines, but people love details such as horns. And especially through the years when train models change and that kind of stuff, you end up realizing that people will say to you things like, well, that engine's not from 1974 because the horn is in the front or the horn's in the back. And when your eye starts to spot where horns go is one of the key things. So I'm putting the fuel tank on. I'm putting the air tanks on. Now, one thing when you're practicing a lot too is that, especially in the case of the Florida East Coast engine, a lot of underframes are black. So, as much as the Florida East Coast engine is bright and bright red, and I've always considered this to be at least a lucky break, is that the underframe is basically the hardest part of the engine, I would say, but the hardest part to practice is the underframe.